She had already said goodbye. That is the part that stays with me. She had already said it. The real version. The one with actual weight in it. Standing at the back of my car while I pulled her bags from the trunk. The kind of goodbye that takes a moment to recover from. And then she had picked up her carry-on and turned toward the terminal doors, and I had watched her go the way you watch someone leave when you have already accepted that they are leaving. She was 12 feet from the doors when she stopped. I was getting back in the car. She turned around. My name is Sam Rourke. I was 33, a middle school science teacher and, on the side, a writer of crossword puzzles for a syndicate that paid modestly and required the specific skill of fitting the exact right word into a space that will only accept one answer. I had been doing both of these things for 6 years in the same city, in the same apartment, with the same coffee maker and the same route to work and the same best friend. Until 5:14 on a Tuesday morning in March when she stood on the curb outside Terminal B and ran back to my car. Her name was Jess Callahan. She had been offered a position at a marine research station in Auckland, a 3-year post, fully funded, the kind of opportunity that people in her field talk about the way other people talk about winning something, and she had spent 4 months deciding whether to take it, and then 2 months preparing to go, and now it was Tuesday, and her flight left at 7:20, and the taxi option had come up at some point, and I had simply said, "Don't be ridiculous, I'll drive you," because that was the kind of friends we were. The kind where someone says "don't be ridiculous" and means it, and the other person puts them in their phone, under the contact name she had used for me since the year we met. The contact name was Safe Harbor. I did not know this until she showed me, 8 months after the airport. But it matters to the story, so I am telling you now. Here is what 6 years of being Jess Callahan's best friend looked like from the inside. It looked like the two of us at her kitchen table at 11 on a Sunday night in October, her spread of field notes from the Bay survey she'd done that afternoon, and my crossword grid for the Wednesday puzzle, working in the particular parallel silence of people who are comfortable enough together that productivity is possible in each other's presence. It looked like her texting me a photograph of a cloud formation at 7 a.m. because she knew I would appreciate the geometry of it. It looked like her calling me from her car in a supermarket parking lot because she had run into her ex and needed 20 minutes of being talked down before she could go back inside and finish buying yogurt. It looked like me, 3 years ago, helping her move into her current apartment over 2 days in August, and her, 6 months after that, helping me through a period I do not need to describe in detail except to say that it was the kind of period where you find out who actually shows up. She showed up. Every time. In the specific, competent, I brought food and I'm not leaving way that some people are capable of, and many people are not. I want to be honest about what I felt for her, because the story requires it. I had been in love with her, quietly and without productive outlet, for somewhere between 2 and 4 years. I could not locate the exact starting point, which is one of the ways you know a feeling arrived gradually rather than suddenly. It had not arrived the way feelings arrive in stories, with a specific moment and a clear before and after. It had arrived the way a season arrives, so incrementally that you look up one day and realize the light has changed and you cannot point to the hour it happened. I had not told her. The reasons for this were the kind of reasons that feel more structural than emotional when you are living inside them. She had never indicated she felt anything beyond what we were, and I was not willing to risk what we were on what I felt. And I had gotten good enough at the management of it that most days it did not feel like management at all. It felt like just how things were, which is, I have since come to understand, exactly what the long management of a feeling looks like from the inside. So when the Auckland offer came, I had sat with it in the way I sat with most things that cost me. Quietly, processing it privately, making the appropriate expressions about what a remarkable opportunity it was, which it was, while also knowing that 3 years is a very long time and that the particular fabric of what we had was not something I knew how to maintain across 12 time zones and a distance that made every conversation a calculation about who was waking up and who was going to sleep. I drove her to the airport because I was her safe harbor. That was what I did. The drive was 40 minutes at that hour. Almost no traffic, the highway gray and pre-dawn, the city still mostly dark behind us, and the sky starting to suggest something at the edges, without committing to it yet. She had her coffee in the cup holder she had come to think of as hers. I had mine, We talked the way we always talked on drives, easily, about things that weren't the main thing, because we were both good at that, and also because the main thing did not have a clean conversational form. She talked about the research station, the project she would be working on, long-term acoustic monitoring of humpback migration patterns, which she had explained to me in enough detail over the past months that I could now make reasonable conversation about it, which she had noticed, and which had made her laugh once in a way I had kept. She talked about the apartment she would be subletting in Auckland, which she had only seen in photographs, and whether the neighborhood was walkable, and whether the coffee would be better or worse than here. Auckland was a serious coffee city, she thought, from her research. She did not talk about coming back. I noticed this, I did not mention it. At some point about 15 minutes out she went quiet. Not the comfortable silence. A different kind. Denser, like something was pressing on it from the inside. I let it be. She would say what she was going to say when she was ready to say it, and she would not say it before. She looked at the window for a while. Then she said, "Do you think it's the right thing?" Honestly. I looked at the highway. I thought about what I was going to say. "I think it's the right opportunity," I said. "Whether it's the right thing depends on what you're trading." She was quiet for a moment. "What do you think I'm trading?" "I think you know," I said, "better than I do." She looked at her coffee. She did not ask me anything else. We got to Terminal B at 5:09. I pulled the car up to the curb the way you do at airports. That temporary claim on a space you are only borrowing for long enough to say goodbye. She got out. I got out. I pulled her 2 bags from the trunk, the larger one that she'd packed and repacked twice, the smaller one she'd shown me the organizational system for, with a quiet pride that I had found, in the way I found most things about her, specifically and unreasonably endearing. We stood on the curb. The airport had its particular early morning quality, the specific kind of fluorescent that exists nowhere else, the sound of rolling luggage and departure announcements, and the low hum of a place that runs on a schedule that does not observe night. She looked at me for a moment. Then she hugged me, not the kind of hug people give when they will see each other again next week, but the kind where both people know something is ending and are trying to hold what's about to be the past for a few seconds longer. I held on to the same degree she did. That was the real goodbye. I knew it when it was happening. She pulled back. She looked at me with an expression I had seen before in smaller moments, a gathering of something, a decision being made behind her eyes that she was not fully articulating. "I'll call you from the gate," she said. "Don't," I said. "Just go. I'll hear from you when you land." She nodded. She picked up her carry-on. She turned toward the terminal doors. I turned toward the car. I heard her footsteps slow, then stop. I did not turn around immediately. I stood with my hand on the door handle for a moment that lasted a strange amount of time. Then her footsteps came back. Fast. She was already close when I turned around. She had dropped the carry-on. I saw it on the sidewalk where she had let go of it without looking, and she was coming back toward me with the expression of someone who has made a decision so quickly that the body is moving before the mind has finished confirming it. I did not say anything. I stood still. She stopped in front of me. Close. Closer than the distance we normally stood, which was a distance I had calibrated over years, without knowing I was calibrating it. "I can't go," she said. "Jess, I know what you're going to say." She was breathing slightly harder than the 12-foot sprint would explain. "You're going to say this is an incredible opportunity and 3 years goes fast and you'll come visit." "I was going to say it's your decision," I said. "Whatever it is." "I know." She looked at me. Directly, the way she looked at things she had committed to looking at clearly. "That's the problem. It is my decision. And I've been making it wrong." I held very still. "I've been treating it like a question about the research station," she said. "Whether the opportunity is worth the cost. And it is. Objectively it is. But I realized," she stopped, restarted. "On the drive, when you said what you're trading, I've been putting the wrong thing in the cost column." The pre-dawn air was cold. A cart of luggage went past behind her, wheels loud on the pavement, and neither of us moved. "What's in the cost column?" I said. She looked at me for a moment with the expression of someone who has run 12 feet back from a terminal door because there was something they could not carry past it. "You," she said. "You're in the cost column, not the friendship, you. And I've been accounting for you like you're a fixed asset." Like you'll be there no matter what I decide, because you always have been, because you are the most reliably there person I have ever known in my life. Her voice was steady, but there was something in it that was working to be steady. And then I realized, that's not how you account for something that matters. That's how you take it for granted. There it was. Not what I had imagined, in the hypotheticals I had allowed myself. Not a declaration, not the words I had kept at a distance because they were too specific to safely want. Something more precise than that. She was telling me she knew what I was to her. She was telling me she knew what she was to me. She was telling me she had been doing the math wrong and had caught it 12 feet from the door. I looked at her on the curb outside Terminal B at 5:14 in the morning. You were about to get on a plane, I said. I know. What does that change? She was quiet for a moment, not uncertain, thinking. The particular pause of someone who has the answer and is choosing the right form for it. It doesn't change the opportunity, she said. It changes what I thought the trade was. I thought I was trading against a thing, a situation. I didn't let myself think about trading against a person. She looked at me. Not until you said what you said and I was already 12 feet away and I suddenly... She stopped. Suddenly what? I said. I thought about you driving home, she said. By yourself. In the dark. And I couldn't. She stopped again. Softer. I couldn't make myself go. I looked at her for a long moment on that curb, in that light, in the cold that neither of us were dressed well enough for. The thing I want to tell you is this. I had practiced in some part of my mind what I would say if something like this ever happened. Not because I expected it, because the management of a feeling over years includes sometimes the small fictional rehearsal of its resolution, the way you sometimes imagine a conversation you do not expect to have. I had versions of it. I had constructed them at various times without meaning to, on drives, in the particular silence before sleep, on Sunday evenings when the week had been ordinary and I was most susceptible to the versions of things I had decided not to want. In every version I had imagined, I knew what to do. I said something that was both true and well organized, something that conveyed the weight of the feeling without making her responsible for it, something that opened a door without pushing her through it. I had worked it out. It was a good version. I said none of it. Not because it was wrong. Because she was standing in front of me at 5:14 in the morning on the curb of Terminal B, with her carry-on on the sidewalk where she had dropped it, and the terminal doors behind her, and a flight that left in 2 hours, and every version I had rehearsed had been for a different room than this one, a room without an airport in it. A room where there was no clock. What I said was, "When does the next flight go?" She blinked. "To Auckland," I said. "What's the next available flight?" She stared at me. "Sam, because the 7:20 is yours, and you should probably go catch it, or we should go inside and figure out what comes next, but I need to know which one we're doing." I looked at her, and I need you to decide based on what you actually want, not what you're afraid of missing, what you want. She looked at me for a long moment. The airport moved around us. "What do you want?" she said. I had not prepared for her to ask me that. Which is its own kind of answer about how long I had been managing. Instead of saying, "I want you to have the research station," I said, "I want you to do the work you've been working toward for years, and I want to be there when you get back." A pause. "Those are all things I want. I've been pretending the last one wasn't true for a while." She was very still. "How long?" she said, quietly, like someone who already knew the answer and was asking anyway, because hearing it was different from knowing it. "Long enough," I said, "that I almost let you get on that plane without saying so." She caught the 7:20. "I want you to know that, because it matters to the kind of story this is." She had worked for the position for 3 years. She had prepared for it for 6 months. She had packed and repacked her bags, and sorted her storage unit and sublet her apartment, and said goodbye to everyone in her life. She went. She walked back through those terminal doors, carry-on in one hand, and she went. But before she did, she stood on that curb for 4 more minutes and we said the things that had been in the cost column, on both sides, that neither of us had been putting the right label on. She told me about the contact name, Safe Harbor, the one she had used since the year we met. I had been in her phone that way for 6 years and had not known it, which told me something I should have known earlier about the shape of what we were. I told her about the Tuesday in February. The afternoon she had called me from the supermarket parking lot after running into her ex, and she had said, "I'm going to be fine, I know I am," and I had said, "I know you are too," and I had meant it completely, and also, underneath it, something I had not said, which was that I was aware of how unreasonably glad I was that she had called me and not someone else. I told her I had kept that. She looked at me. "I knew," she said, "not what you were thinking, but that there was something you were keeping. You didn't say anything." "You didn't say anything," she said, simply. "Not an accusation, a fact." She went through the doors at 5:31. She looked back once, from inside the glass, and I raised one hand from where I was standing at the car, and she turned and walked toward security. I drove home in the gray light of early morning, the same highway, in the same pre-dawn, the same direction, except that it was not the same, because I was not the same person who had driven the other direction 40 minutes before. I had told the truth at an airport at 5 a.m. The city looked different, not better or worse. Different. She texted at 9:47 from her layover. I told Priya, "She is not handling it well. Too much invested." I wrote back, "How are you handling it?" 3 minutes. Then, "I'm good. I'm actually really good. Is that strange?" I looked at that for a moment, standing in my kitchen with the coffee I had made when I got home, and that had gone slightly past the right temperature. "No," I wrote, "that sounds exactly right. 3 years is a long time. I knew that going in. I had known it when Auckland came up the first time, and I had been sitting with the shape of it ever since. I want to be honest with you, the 3 years were not uncomplicated. They were sometimes lonely in a specific way, the way that missing someone you have also told the truth to is different from missing someone you haven't. Heavier in some respects, lighter in others. Heavier because the truth had made it real. Lighter because there was nothing left to manage. What I found out over the 3 years that followed is that 12 time zones is actually less far than the distance I had maintained across 2 desks in the same city, inside the architecture of a friendship I had been too careful with to tell the truth. She called on Sundays. I called on Wednesdays, which was morning for me and evening for her, a configuration we had settled into because it gave us both a midpoint in the week to anchor to. She sent photographs of the water, of the humpbacks when they were in range, of the specific light she said Auckland had in the late afternoon that was different from anywhere else she'd been. I sent her the Wednesday crossword before it published because I had filled in one of the answers with her name. Not as a clue, as an answer, 11 letters, running across the center of the grid. And I wanted her to find it. She called me the day she found it. It was 7 in the morning for her and midnight for me, and I picked up on the first ring. 11 letters, she said. "Right in the center," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "Sam," she said. "Yeah. I'm coming home in 6 months." I sat down. The apartment was dark. The city outside my window was doing what cities do at midnight. Not sleeping, just quieter. "I know," I said. "I want you to come to the airport." A pause. "Not to pick me up, just, I want you to be there." I looked at the window. "I'll be there," I said. "Not of course. Not don't be ridiculous. Just, I'll be there." She came home on a Thursday. I was at the gate. At airports now you can go to the gate if you have an escort pass, which requires some paperwork, which I had done, and I watched her come through the door from the jetway with the same carry-on she had taken with her, and she saw me standing there and she stopped for a half second in the doorway, the way she had stopped on the curb 3 years before. She didn't run this time, she walked. But she was smiling before she reached me, in the way she smiled at things she had been waiting for, and was finally done waiting for. And when she stopped in front of me, she said, "Safe Harbor," not a question. The contact name. Said out loud, for the first time, like the thing it had always meant. "Safe Harbor," I said. Have you ever been the one who drove someone to the airport, knowing you weren't going to say what you should have said, and then something happened that changed the whole calculation? And do you ever wonder what would have been different if you'd said it first? Tell me your story in the comments. If this one stayed with you, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.